afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Bantu.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, teacher.
So today we are going to have a kind of, wrap-up class. So most of the important topics that we are supposed to cover in this course, I think we have, somehow covered most of them. Today I will be continuing with the, remaining part of last lecture, and then I will be discussing something about the origin and development of Tantrayana, which is later on, which came to be known as Vajrayana. There are some more important topics attached to the course that we are supposed to discuss. For example, the important Buddhist learning centers that were established in this, period of especially, Gupta and Pala dynasty, that is starting from 5th, 6th century Common Era until 12th century. And then of course, some discussions with regard to the decline of Buddhism. So there are different causes that led to the decline of Buddhism in India. And throughout the course, we have been also mentioning some of the important personalities. There are some kings, important kings, who have contributed for the establishment and for the spread of Buddhism within India and beyond India. And there have been some great Buddhist monks and scholars who have contributed so much for the development of Buddhist studies, okay, during the Abhidharma period, and also in the time of Mahayana movements. Some of these scholars are attached to this Madhyamaka school and the Yogacharya school, and later on, of course, when you talk about this beginning of Tantrayana, so there are some great masters, tantric masters as well, who have contributed to the development of Tantrayana and Vajrayana as well. So in my last email, I sent you some documents. So when you have time, if you go through these documents, you'd have good understanding of these important topics. So today I will try to finish quickly, and then I will be playing some of your presentation clips. I received some of the presentations today, just 5-10 minutes before. Also, I have received some of your video recordings. If you remember, I mentioned in my email that we are going to have another class tomorrow, because I came to know that the class that you normally have on Wednesday is completed, right? So we do not have so much of time, and many of you have to present your topics. So I would say that those of you who have not completed your video recordings yet, try to do it as soon as possible, so that you can present tomorrow. Do not wait for the last class, because if too many of you are waiting for the last class, then if we do not have sufficient amount of time, we are not going to have any extra class after that. Any question or remark so far? think we have covered this discussion of three natures, and then okay. Okay, let me share my computer screen. Yes, tomorrow we are going to have a class about the same time. I think the BA students are having a separate class. So if you are having, a different class, scheduled class tomorrow, it's okay if you do not participate, tomorrow, because not many of you are following this class. What kind of class? How many of you are going to participate in this 1:30 class tomorrow? I think most of you will not be joining that class, right? Basically, tomorrow we will be having just presentations by some of you. Okay, so we have been talking about this Madhyamaka movement, and after that the Yogacara movement. So in our last class, we have been discussing about the important, doctrinal points that this Yogacara school has been having, with regard to Tathagatagarbha, Alaya Vijnana, and then trying to explain the nature of samsara and also the nature of nirvana in terms of three natures, parikalpita, paratantra, and parinishpanna. So it is all three terms referring to the same thing from different perspective. When it is called parikalpita, that is mentally constructed or imagined nature, which has no real basis, that is just mental construction. And paratantra refers to the way things take place, okay, the nature of things as it is. And the parinishpanna refers to one's complete understanding of the nature of reality. Okay, so that is the state of truth that is realized by these sages, or seen by these sages. And then there is a discussion of purity and defilement. So if you remember, we have been discussing that in the Yogacara school of thought, they have been having this idea that there is a pure consciousness, which is also termed as Tathagatagarbha, which is present in everyone, every living being. The only thing is that it is covered with defilements. Therefore, beings are not able to, realize it, understand it, and therefore they have been wandering in the samsara. So there are different ways that are provided so that people are able to eradicate all kinds of defilements and finally realize this immaculate nature of mind, which is pure. Okay, so there you have this discussion of purity and defilement. There are of course a number of texts discussing about this concept, particularly the text called Uttara Tantra Shastra. It is also known as Ratnagotra Vibhaga. So this is the text particularly devoted to this idea of purity and defilement. So the kind of discussion that you can have in this text is that the Yogacharas reflected much on the relationship between a pure ultimate reality and a defiled, impaired samsara found within it. Reversal does not bring about a change in ultimate reality, for what is changeable is impermanent. Its purity is intrinsic to it, as is pure gold, water free from dirt, the sky without a cloud. So these are the similes that are used to define this pure nature of the mind. So it is pure when detached from imagination. So it seems like it is referring to the parinishpanna state of mind. Emptiness is seen as undefiled due to its very nature, the brightly shining state of the transcendental chitta, but this purity is hidden by adventitious defilements. They are called agantuka kilesha. So originally there is no kilesha. Okay, so these are adventitious defilements, agantuka. Okay, so throughout the journey in the samsaric life, you have been collecting all these from how do you say, sankharas, and because of this original nature of mind is covered. Okay, so they are called adventitious defilements or agantuka kilesha. So by this expression, it also shows that as they are agantuka kilesha, they should be removed. One would be able to remove them because they are not intrinsic to the mind. Okay, so they are agantuka. Vasubandhu comments that the existence of these alien defilements at the other dependent level explains why people do not attain liberation without effort, while the shining nature of ultimate reality explains why the effort to attain purity will not be fruitless. He also comments, the dharma realm, being like space, is pure by nature, and the duality, pure and impure, is only adventitious, arriving later. That is, only in contrast to impure defilements is the ultimate reality pure. In itself, it is beyond all such dualities. Yeah. So you talk about the purity of mind because it is covered with defilements. Once it is free from the defilements, it is completely pure, and then there is no discussion about the impure and pure mind because it is beyond this duality, beyond this thought of duality. And that is the Tathagatagarbha. Tathagatagarbha means something like embryonic Buddha or matrix of a Buddha, though the earliest meaning may have been a reference to beings as containing a Buddha. This embryo is seen as existing within all living beings, indicating that however deluded or defiled they are, they can mature into Buddhas. The Tathagatagarbha then represents the Buddha potential within all beings. So it is present in everyone. And we find this, strong idea of bodhicitta being present in everybody, Tathagatagarbha being present in everybody, and hence the emphasis is on Mahayana or Buddhayana or Bodhisattvayana, okay, rather than becoming an Arahant or Pacheka Buddha and so on. It is beyond duality, having the nature of thought and the intrinsic purity of a jewel, space, or water. It is brightly shining with lucid clarity and is by nature brightly shining and pure. Beings are seen as ignorant of this great inner treasure, but the Buddha reveals it to them so as to encourage them in spiritual development. In the Tathagatagarbha Sutra and the Ratnaguttara Vibhaga, a number of metaphors are used to illustrate the relationship between the intrinsically pure Tathagatagarbha and the stains of adventitious defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, etc., which are said to obscure it. It is both like a Buddha image wrapped in tattered rags, which suggest an unchanging perfection which has simply to be uncovered, and also like the shoots of a great tree piercing through the fruit from which it grows, suggesting that it is a potential in need of cultivation. So this potency or this potentiality is present in everybody. The only thing is that people have to make effort so that they are able to realize it. The Ratnaguttara Vibhaga says the Tathagatagarbha as already present, the immaculate true nature to which nothing need be added and from which nothing need be taken. Yet it has to be separated from accompanying impurities, just as gold ore has to be refined so as to bring out and manifest the intrinsic purity of gold. In Bodhisattvas, it is partly purified, and in Buddhas, it is wholly purified. So as a concluding remark, here I have mentioned that while the Madhyamakas use the term emptiness only to denote simply the absence of inherent nature or existence in phenomena, the Yogacharas also see emptiness as a term for something that is positively existing in the form of the non-dual nature of the other dependent nature. So that is Parinishpanna state of the Paratantra level of truth. Reality understood according to the true middle way is empty of duality, but not empty of existence. It is that which is empty. The other dependent construction of the unreal is not totally unreal, but exists within emptiness, being neither separate from nor identical to it, just as impermanent things are neither separate from nor identical to impermanence. It has an ineffable anabhilapya nature known only by Buddhas. So all these ideas of anatta, impermanence, emptiness, Tathagatagarbha, some are spoken from negative perspective, giving a negative denotation. Some are spoken from the positive perspective. All these ideas are referring to the same thing. Okay, so even these ideas of impermanence, emptiness, or Tathagatagarbha, Parinishpanna state of mind, and so on, should not be taken just as some ideas, separated from how the world, the phenomenal world, samsara, is functioning. So it is all the same. The only thing is that how things appear to you and me, and it is of course because of we being immersed in defilements and so on. Once you are free from these defilements and impurities, that is then the ultimate truth of things as they are, and the knowledge with regard to this truth. Okay, so this much I would have to say about this Mahayana movements. Along the similar line, the Tantrayana also developed, because the focus is again this development of Buddhahood. So in the Mahayana and in the Madhyamaka and in Yogacara, even though they have been focusing on these ideas of emptiness and Tathagatagarbha, and of course in the Madhyamaka you have this discussion of Prajna as well. The focus is to understand this ultimate truth, and by following this path of Buddhahood, that will lead you to become a Buddha, right? And it may take many lifetimes, countless lifetimes. So it has been described as a very difficult journey, contrary to the idea of arahanthood in early Buddhism, where the discussion focuses that if somebody is willing to overcome this samsaric journey within this lifetime, one can follow these paths prescribed in the early Buddhist text and become an arahant within this lifetime. So in the Tantrayana, what we see is that even though their focus is to become a Buddha, right? Rather than waiting for many lifetimes, the focus is in a way that you can make progress in the path if you follow this particular type of tantra practices and so on. Within this lifetime, you would be able to achieve this Buddhahood and so on. So that is basically the idea. Let's look at some of the descriptions attached to this Mantrayana and the origin of Tantric Buddhism. Tantric practice centers on the ritual evocation, especially through the use of mantras and visualization of deities that are seen as in some sense awakened. So it is like, in a way, you do this practice of recollecting the qualities of the Buddha, Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati in the Theravada tradition, and also in the Mahayana tradition. For example, you remember the names of the Buddhas, you recollect the qualities of them, right? So in the Tantrayana practice, Tantrayana school, you also do the practices in a similar way. You do not just recollect the qualities of these great beings, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In a way, you try to embody the qualities within yourself in the practice. Okay, so to the extent that you consider yourself as a enlightened beings. Such methods were originally for worldly ends, part of the Mahayana aim of compassionately helping beings. These aimed to generate deep religious experiences which can lead to Buddhahood more quickly than the hugely long Bodhisattva path. The early phase of Tantric Buddhism called itself the Mantranaya, a way of mantra. Okay, so earlier it was called Mantra Naya. Naya means way or method. This being seen as a complement to the Paramita Naya, a way of the perfections as part of Mahayana practice. Right? So before Tantrayana, you had this Paramita Naya. You have to follow the 6 parameters or 10 parameters or 10 bhumis, and then you progress slowly in the Bodhisattva path. Whereas in the case of Tantrayana, it is called Mantra Naya. So there are a certain type of practices that are developed and a certain types of mantras that are developed. From the 3rd century, sutras contained dharanis, short formulas preserving or maintaining the dharma and aiding its followers. The pre-Mahayana sutras also contain parittas or short protective chants. So when you talk about parittas or protective chants, they are even present in the Theravada Buddhist text as well, right? For example, you have this Bhujanga Paritta, right? So when people become sick, you recite this sutta. And there is a story attached to this Bhujanga Paritta, right? When there are 2 or 3 Bhujanga Parittas, right? So one of them says that when I think it was Mahakassapa or somebody, right, got sick, and then Buddha suggested to recite these parittas, right? Similarly, you have Angulimala Paritta. Angulimala Paritta, when some women, become pregnant, and they have been going through troubles. Sometimes in the Buddhist country, they invite monks to chant this Angulimala Paritta, because in the Angulimala Paritta, the story that is attached to this Paritta is that when Angulimala has been, collecting food in his alms round, he met this woman who has been experiencing pain of pregnancy, and Angulimala recited this. It is in a way he actually, how do you say? He was blessing this woman by saying that, since I became a follower of the Buddha, since I became a noble disciple, I have not committed any evil karma, any akusala and so on. So I sincerely, want to transfer my merits, whatever merits I have collected by being a follower of the Buddha, by being a noble, a disciple, to this lady, so that she get rid of this, pain and so on. And that became a paritta, and that is chanted in the Theravada tradition. So there are different parittas that are developed even in the Theravada tradition as well. Building on such a basis, the practice of using mantras or sacred words of power was adopted from Hinduism, where they were originally used in the Vedas. These incantations were used to contact gods or as spells to gain a good harvest, health, children, or even to bewitch someone. So when, if you remember, when we have been discussing about the Vedas, we came to know that some of the Vedic text focusing on these mantras, right? Some of the text are composed in praise of the gods, right? You recite these verses when you carry out a certain sacrificial activities. And especially the last one, the fourth one, is said to be, containing a kind of, how do you say, magical spells. So there are some white and some even black, dark. So some spells are for good, some are for bad. In Tantric Buddhism, they also became chanted in rites to age visualizations, in which a particular holy being is conjured up as a basis for developing the spiritual qualities that the being embodies. So you visualize a certain Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, or Dakinis, and so on. You recollect their qualities, spiritual qualities, and then you try to, have them yourself, develop them yourself. Each tantric deity is seen to have its mantra in short and long forms, which consist of a syllable, word, or a string of these that are seen to express and embody its nature. One of the famous mantra that is popularly known is Om Mani Padme Hum, right? That is very famous. I think that is attached to Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. Yeah. Yes, so that is quite famous. Now you can find this mantra to appear in this text, Karanda Vyuha Sutra. So this is said to be one of the, early text discussing about these mantras. Om Mani Padme Hum, which is first found in the Karanda Vyuha Sutra. Om and Hum are sacred sounds used in the Vedas. First, being seen as the basic sound of the universe. Mani Padme literally means "O jeweled lotus." In later exegesis, Mani is seen as referring to the jewel that this Bodhisattva holds, while Padme refers to his symbol, the lotus. But later we come to know that this mantra Om Mani Padme Hum is divided into 6 parts representing 6 paramitas. 6 paramitas. Yeah, here you can find them. So this is how the mantra is divided. Om Mani Padme Hum. Right? Om is connected to Dana, Ma, Shila, Ni, Shanti, Pat, Virya, Me, Dhyana, Hum, Prajna. So these are the 6 parameters. And it is said that these 6 parameters deal with these 6 type of negative forces to overcome these 6 negative forces. And they are also connected to these 6 realms, and they are represented with these 6 colors, as you can see here. White, so that is Om, this one. Ma, Ni, Pat, Me, Hum, right? Yeah. There were various elements that led to the rise and development of Tantric Buddhism in India. Tantric forms of Indian religion were particularly strong within strands of Hinduism centered on the deity Shiva. The Tantric Buddhism developed in competition with Tantric Shaivism, and borrowing from its complex symbolism and ritual techniques, adapted them in Buddhist guise geared to Buddhist goals. In doing so, it claimed that the Shaiva text had originally been taught by the Buddha, or that the Hindu gods associated with them were forms in which Buddhas or advanced Bodhisattvas compassionately appear. It also described the subjugation of Shiva by the Buddhist deity Vajrapani. So this is a picture of Shiva, and this is Vajrapani. So what we can see here is that the tantric practices in Hinduism and also this tantric practices in Buddhism got mixed up, right? And some of these deities of Hindu tradition have been adopted as Buddhist gods as well. I think it happened both ways. For example, in the case of Hinduism, they have been taking the teachings, some of these Buddhist teachings, right? In fact, we know that in the Hindu tradition, Buddha is also considered as one of the 10 avatara, right? Incarnations. So Buddhism is considered as part of Hinduism, okay, by this Hindu tradition. Okay. So what we can see in the tantric movement is that in the tantric movement, many of these gods became Buddhist, and also from the Buddhist point of view, from the tantric Buddhism point of view, they have been explaining, they have been providing their own explanations, you know, of these gods and also the practices and so on. So while in the Hindu tradition, they are trying to adopt some of the Buddhist teachings and making them as Hindu teachings and Hindu practices. In the tantric tradition, they're trying to, you know, do the other way around. Tantric Buddhism more broadly augmented the magical side of Buddhism with elements drawn from the beliefs and practices common in agricultural societies in addition to mantras. This was seen to aid success, siddhi, in both worldly and spiritual matters. Why do you carry out these practices or chant these mantras and so on? You need to achieve a certain success, siddhi. It could be worldly success, it could be spiritual success. Rituals used in the monasteries to bring aid to their supporting communities and as a preliminary to higher practices came in time to play an increasing role within such higher practices aimed at soteriological goals. Further, female deities and reinterpreted Hindu ones were admitted into the greatly expanded pantheon of Buddhist holy beings. So there came to exist female bodhisattvas and female Buddhas. So this is a picture of Dakini. So the term used is Dakini. Dakini refers to female bodhisattvas or Buddhas. And you would find that many of these great teachers, including, for example, Atisha and so on, they have been having their personal deity or personal Dakini that they have been, visualizing their qualities. And it is said that these Dakinis and these Bodhisattvas or enlightened beings, they have been actually guiding these masters in their journey of spirituality. Key Mahayana concepts were used to give a rationale for developing new methods for attaining spiritual realization. If you remember some of the Mahayana concepts, for example, if the world was non-different from nirvana, so this you can find in the Nagarjuna's teaching that there is no distinction between samsara and nirvana, right? Any object or action could potentially be used as a route to ultimate truth. If the motive and method were right, using skillful means. If all was thought only, that is in Yogacara, complex and vivid visualizations could be developed as a new and transforming world of experience. Okay, so these ideas, and they took up these ideas to rationalize their, practices. The earlier text had more of an emphasis on worldly aims, but over time, more supra-worldly aims related to Buddhahood became more important. From the time of the Yoga Tantras, that is the 8th century, Tantric modes of Buddhism increasingly became the dominant ones in India. And Tantric Buddhism saw itself as a new and more powerful spiritual vehicle whose means bring Buddhahood not just worldly protection. So finally, even though they have been focusing on worldly protection and worldly gains in the beginning, finally they came up with this idea that this is considered to be the most powerful spiritual vehicle. By following this, you can achieve Buddhahood quicker. It thus started to call itself the Vajrayana, the thunderbolt or diamond vehicle. Vajra means thunderbolt, diamond. In pre-Buddhist India, the Vajra was seen as the power-laden scepter of Indra, ruler of the Vedic gods. In early Buddhism, the Arahat was said to have a mind like a Vajra. And in the Mahayana, a 10th stage Bodhisattva is said to enter a Vajra-like meditative state. So in these three, examples, you'd find that Vajra is given supreme status, right? This is just the Pali passage, just to show you that from this reference. this reference to Arahant having a mind like Vajra is made here. This is a description of a type of Arahant having Vajirupamachitto, a mind like Vajra. So Vajra is the term used for Vajra, diamond. So that is a type of Arahant. Tantric Buddhism saw the Vajra as a good symbol for its powerful methods and the awakened mind. This was because it saw it as a substance which was as irresistible as a thunderbolt, suggesting the overwhelming power of the awakened mind to destroy spiritual obstacles, as hard as a diamond, suggesting the indestructible nature of the awakened mind, and as clear as empty space, suggesting the empty, void-like nature of such a mind. The Vajra then symbolized awakening, ultimate reality, and the Dharma body personified as Vajra Sattva, the Vajra being. So the picture that you see here symbolizes Vajra. So these are used in the Vajrayana temples. Okay, and this is just a drawing. This is a picture of Vajra Sattva. So he is holding this Vajra in his hands. The aim of the Vajrayana adept was to become conscious of the identity between Vajra Sattva and his own empty nature, so as to become such a being. So you want to become a Vajra Sattva yourself. To do this was to gain awakening or siddhi, spiritual success. This term is also very important in the Vajrayana tradition, because there is a discussion of siddhas, spiritual teachers. So there are 84 siddhacharyas in the Vajrayana tradition. The goal and philosophy of the Vajrayana remained Mahayanist, but its means were seen as far more powerful, so as to lead to Buddhahood in just one lifetime. A kind of supercharged Mahayana, but Mahayana nonetheless. It was seen to work not so much by building up the causes of Buddhahood, but by visualizing and evoking the result of this path, so as to make the result part of the path to it. So you do not follow a step-by-step path. You visualize the qualities of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and you try to become a Buddha and Bodhisattva within this lifetime. In Tibet, it is often held that tantric means are needed for anyone to complete the path to Buddhahood. So this is a must. Okay, in the Tibetan tradition, it says that tantric means, tantric practices are a requirement to attain Buddhahood. Here one might say that while the classical Mahayana came to include celestial Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that were seen to help a being along the path, in the Vajrayana, these beings are also internalized as inner aids. Even in the Theravada tradition, when you talk about the attainment of Buddhahood by all different Buddhas, including Siddhartha, he has been receiving, he has been meeting all these different Buddhas before him, right? And he has been getting, instructions and teachings from them, or blessings from them, right? Which suggest that if you want to follow this Bodhisattva path, path to Buddhahood, you need to have guidance from a guru or from a Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, right? So that is the classical understanding of, Mahayana understanding of, the attainment of Buddhahood. But here it says that in the Vajrayana tradition, these beings are internalized, as I have been saying. You visualize and internalize the qualities of these beings, okay, and then you become a Bodhisattva and Buddha within this lifetime. One who has attained various kinds of magical accomplishment even after Buddhahood by the tantric path is called a Siddha, or accomplished one. And there are accounts of the lives of the 84 Mahasiddhas, or great accomplished ones, who lived between the 8th and 12th centuries. If you click to this link here, you can see brief descriptions and pictures of 84 Mahasiddhas. So here you see a picture of this 84 Mahasiddhas with some descriptions, 84 of them. So I sent you this link so that you can look at the description and these pictures yourself. Okay, cannot. They were usually long-haired lay people, often from low caste, who lived unconventional, wandering lives as crazy-sounding wizard saints. They were inspired and trained by gurus, and in turn became great gurus. They sought to inject a fresh dynamic spirit into the somewhat over-systematized Mahayana, and re-emphasized the role of the lay practitioner. Though they could also be monks, they included Tilopa and Naropa, who are important inspires of Tibetan Buddhism, and some are seen to have passed on teachings to Padmasambhava and Vimalamitra, both 8th century. Padmasambhava is seen as a second Buddha, and also as a transformation body of Amitabha Buddha. So particularly here, two names are mentioned of these Siddhacharyas, Tilopa and Naropa. And I sent this link to you because recently I have provided a discussion on this, some of these masters. Probably you can. Yes, so this much is about the Tantrayana and Vajrayana. Any questions so far? Now I will be just playing some of your presentations, but before that I'd like to just show some of these pictures. That's all. Yeah, so this was the final development when you talk about the development of Buddhism in India. So it came up to the development of Tantrayana or Vajrayana. And then of course, as I said, there were a lot of great Buddhist monasteries that were developed. In these monasteries, They have been carrying out serious study of Buddhism and also serious practices. And they are not just providing, Buddhist education. They have been providing educations on medicine, psychology, logic, grammar, even agriculture. Okay, and we find that people from all over India and also even from the neighboring countries have been coming to study in these great universities. I'm just going to show you some pictures here. These are some of the names: Nalanda, Mahavihara, Vallabhi, Vikramashila, Jagadala, Odantapuri. So now we have ruins like this. So these are pictures of ruins. And these are some of the great masters who have been associated with some of these universities. Some of them, have been studying in these universities, and after studying, some of them became great teachers as well. So these are pictures of some of the great, Buddhist personalities, kings, and Buddhist monks and scholars who have contributed so much for the, development and propagation of Buddhism within India and outside India. Ashwagosha, Nagarjuna, Asanga, and Vasubandhu, and Dignaga, Dharmakirti, Shantideva, and Atisha. Yeah. So this is what I have to say now. Before I play some of your presentations, do you have any question or remark with regard to the course?